I grew up in the countryside in Lancashire, in my grandfather's house. He had a refugee cook from Austria and a refugee housemaid, and when they came, they didn't speak any English. He gave me a small German dictionary, so I used to spend my evenings as a schoolgirl sitting with Mrs. Getzel. It meant that we were talking more in German than English. I've never found languages a problem. In fact, German turned out to be a rather useful language to have during the war. We trained at Mill Hill and Wimbledon, and then we were sent to little coastal listening stations. My first station was on the Yorkshire coast at a place called Withensea, because we had very good reception from the Baltic, and the German naval ships used to talk coming out of the Baltic or leaving their bases in the Baltic. And at Withensea, we used to search their wavelengths, write down everything we heard. They kept radio silence most of the time, but we were searching up and down their radio frequencies in our little secret stations. And I think we probably got a fair amount of useful information. And we passed the coded messages to Bletchley Park and the plain language messages to the nearest Naval Intelligence Centre. They'd sometimes have a bit of chat, did you know so-and-so's boat are all going on leave next week? And the one who picked it up said, oh, sie machen alle Kinder was? They're all going to make babies. And even things like that we wrote down, because the rule was that everything you heard, you logged. And it might even be useful for our side to know that these crews were going on leave, that those boats would not be operating. Even bits of gossip like that could come in useful. So we wrote everything down. I was transferred to a station between Dover and Folkestone, where we could hear very loud and clear German naval ships warming up in the harbours opposite or going down the channel. We worked what we called watches, which would be called shifts. So many hours on, 4 hours on, 8 hours off, that sort of thing. I'd been on watch overnight. I came out in the morning, about 8 o'clock, and there was a party of people coming up the path towards our cliff. And I recognised in the middle of this group Winston Churchill and General Eisenhower, and they were with a group of officers. You were supposed to salute people of that rank, but as I'd been on duty all night and was just informally dressed, all I could do was wave and say, good morning. And so they all waved back and said, good morning. And they went on their way to the edge of our cliff. And in fact, much later on, I heard that Churchill wanted it to be reported back that he and Eisenhower had been down on the Kent coast to deceive the Germans into thinking that landings were going to be in Kent, into the Calais area, whereas of course we were going to land much further west in Normandy. That ploy worked.